Good morning, everybody. It is the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. We are live on Facebook, on X, on YouTube, and of course, the new platform that we are on with National Streaming Sports, the Roku channel of National Streaming Sports. Download Roku, download the National Streaming Sports app. You'll get my show and a bunch of other great content that the crew at National Streaming Sports is putting on out there. It is a great lineup, top to bottom. If you're a sports fan, that is the place that you need to go. Of course, we are brought to you by RevAutoCarCare.com. RevAutoCarCare.com. That's where you go to get all the stuff to take care of your car. Make sure your car is looking as clean and as pretty as possible. Obviously, it's not going to look as clean and pretty as me. I mean, it will. It most definitely will. But that's where you go. Make sure your car's looking good. Make sure your interior is looking good. Use promo code Tipton33. Tipton33 to save up to 15% on all of the various products that they have over at RevAutoCarCare.com. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. I got Medusa Designs tuning in right now saying, good morning. It is a beautiful morning going on with us right here on the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. I wanted to start off talking about football, right? Yesterday we had the college football playoff. The committee started all that good stuff. They got the rankings. They showed us what the bracket's going to look like, all of that. And as I'm sitting down watching sports like the big sports nerd I am, I wind up watching the game between the Detroit Pistons and the Miami Heat. And this game, if you weren't watching it, was a phenomenal game, back and forth. Just great. A lot of scoring going on. It winds up being 122-121. That's the score of the end of the game. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. The score, obviously, that's fun. You know, you got to see all that. But you got to witness, if you watched that game along with me on ESPN, as we are now in the middle of the Emirates in-season tournament, what happened in that game. Tyler Hero goes down, knocks down a shot with a couple seconds left. Detroit gets the ball down the field. Miami or down the court. Miami has the lead at this point, 121-119. Detroit calls a timeout. They get it on the inbound, and from the inbound, they're able to throw an alley-oop that just gets jammed on down, and then boom, 0.1 second left on the clock. Tie game. Miami Heat head coach Erik Spoelstra calls a timeout. Normally not an issue, but the Miami Heat did not have any timeouts. Technical foul. Detroit gets to shoot their free throw, and Detroit wins the game 122-121. An absolute blunder. And yes, Erik Spoelstra says, you can blame me. You can blame me. I'm the guy that called the timeout. It's all on me. Well, yeah, obviously it's all on you. Like you're the head coach of the team. Obviously it's all on you. You should be taking the blame in that instance. Nonetheless, though, I wanted to talk about this with the NBA because I find this to be a ton of fun. For one, and I know it's probably not a very popular decision with a lot of people that are out there, but I, for one, love the in-season tournament. I think the biggest issue that the NBA had, and a lot of people will say, hey, it's unwatchable. Hey, it's this. Hey, it's that. I can't get into the in-season tournament. I feel like there's just nothing going along with the in-season or nothing going along with the NBA right now that's really generated to the fans, because you have people sitting out games all the time. You have people, load management is a thing now with the NBA and blah, 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 blah. But we saw last year, whenever the LA Lakers won the in-season tournament, that these players actually cared. They were playing hard. That was the biggest issue that I think people had with the NBA was, we're not seeing the stars. We're not seeing them play hard. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. And I was scrolling through social media, just looking at a bunch of stuff, and every single comment following that Heat game, which was a fantastic game. Obviously, that's a crappy way to lose a game, but that was such an interesting game. That was such a fun game to watch. And knowing that maybe it's the courts, maybe it's whatever else is going on in the world where people are just anti-NBA now, but you can't sit there and say it's an unwatchable product. And that's what a lot of people have been saying about the NBA, is that no one wants to watch these games. To me, it's been a lot more fun than football. Now, maybe I'm just saying that because I'm a Cowboys fan, right? This season has been an absolute dumpster fire for Cowboys fans. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, this is so much more fun. Any NBA game is so much more fun than the action you get in an NFL game. And I said it yesterday that, basketball is the sport that I love the most over football, over all that. Tommy Cananza, who was on here yesterday, sent a message right as the stream ended saying, that's blasphemous, Tip. Absolutely blasphemous. But whenever you look at the NFL compared to the NBA, there's constant action in the NBA, right? Very few seconds, precious seconds, tick off the clock without anything happening. An NFL game on average is 60 minutes long with maybe 11 minutes of action. That's what the biggest issue to me is with the NFL, right? We're talking about not even a quarter of the amount of time is actual action on the field. It's normally 11 minutes of the game. You do your play, you let the clock tick down from 45 on down to whatever it is, and it gets a little tedious, a little boring at times. You can fall asleep in an NFL game, wake up, and then be like, oh my God, it's still the second quarter. You cannot do that with the NFL. You just cannot do that with, or not with the NFL, with the NBA. Because the NBA makes it so much more fun. Even in blowouts, you kind of want to sit back and watch, right? Just see what exactly is happening on here. Medusa Design saying, oh, no. She's not agreeing with me on this. Where are the hits in basketball? You got to watch. I mean, it is a very physical sport, especially you see the bigs down on the block just beating the crap out of each other. That's one of the more fun parts about the NBA. That I love watching, but I'm also old school, right? Like I love me a little bit of defense. I love me all of the issues that teams have to deal with, so to speak. But basketball is a pretty physical game, especially if you're, if you're watching for certain things, right? Especially the bigs. Always watch the bigs and watch the screens. Steven Adams. I'm just going to throw that name out there. Look up the highlights of Steven Adams and see what he's been doing to dudes, just knocking them around left and right. I mean, hell, even Draymond Green kicking people in the nuts. You don't see people getting kicked in the nuts in the NFL, do you? That is arguably one of the dumbest points I think I've ever made. And you know what? I'm going to stand by it. I love that point right there. Loving my own points. That's one of the things that's gonna get me through big in this industry. Okay, so here we are, just going through the issue that people have with the NBA, and like you said, it's not as physical as football. Obviously, it's not going to be as physical. There's not as many people on the field, not as many people on the court as there is on a football field. But what I would say is there's a lot more actual in-game action. That's where you get the 121 to 122 scores and things of that nature. And it's just that much more fun, right? Like, I like a lot of scoring. I know the biggest issue last year, especially surrounding the All-Star game, was, there's too much scoring. There's no defense. Where's the emphasis on defense? We have to be defense, blah, 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 right? If the NBA was a defensive league, absolutely nobody would be watching. And I say that with the utmost confidence because no one wants to see a defensive NFL game, right? If a game ends on Monday Night Football, that's 3-0. Hell, let's call it 3-2 because we got a defensive safety in there. You are going on social media. You're going on all of the different channels you have, any possible outlet you can get. And if an NFL game ends 3-2, you are ripping the NFL. Nobody wants to see defense. And I know Medusa Designs is watching. She is a defensive player for semi-professional football. And I know she's going to hate this thing, but no one pays to see defense. Unless you're like Micah Parsons or TJ Watt or someone like that, no one's really paying to see that. They want to see offense. That's been the issue that people have this year with the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Everyone's sitting back saying, oh my God, the Chiefs, they look like they're struggling. No. The Chiefs are a really good defensive team, so they don't have to put up 90 points a game like they did in the past to compensate for that lackluster defense they had a few years ago. They put all the money in on the defensive side, gave money to Patrick Mahomes, gave money to Travis Kelce, and now the defense is carrying that team the way that it should. Hell, the defense is the reason why they won a Super Bowl last year. But if that Super Bowl ends 13-7, like it did a couple of years ago between the Rams and the Patriots, people are losing their mind. Nobody wants to see defensive struggles. No one wants to see any of that nonsense going around there. Tommy Cananza saying, true, he agrees with it. Medusa Design saying, I haven't watched in a while, but I used to love to play it, though. Point guard right here, baby. And saying they want to see absolutely, but defense does win games. and I will agree with this. Defense is the reason why you win championships. I always equate it to this, though. Nobody wants to watch a defensive game. No one wants to watch people have a hard time struggling to get to score. Because if that's the case, if you wanted to watch someone struggle to score, you'd go with your friends to the bar because they're definitely not scoring there. At least maybe my friends. But we'll talk about that some other time. But that's the thing, right? Like, no one wants to watch defensive games, and people are going out just crushing the NBA right now, saying, "Oh, there's too much offense. There's too much offense." No one crushed the NFL whenever the NFL had a ton of offense going on it. Whenever we watched that game on a Monday night a few years ago between the Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was the first time in NFL history that a team that scored 50 points lost, that was fun. That was fun. That's what people want to see. Tommy Cananza hits it right on the head right here. We want to watch defensive stands, but not defensive games, right? You want to see a team dig in late in the fourth quarter. Absolutely. Just digging in, knowing that they gave up a lot of points during the beginning part of the game, but digging in and stopping teams from scoring late in the game. That's what we want. We want to see our defense late in the game get that pick six or block a field goal like what we saw with the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday against the Broncos. That's the type of defense that we want. Even in the NBA, you want to see someone whenever it's down to that last second and they're dribbling the ball up the court. You want to see him as he goes up to shoot, just get that thing slapped right on back to him. That's whenever we want to see defense. We don't want to see the whole thing. We don't want to see a 6-5 game with field goals. Hell, even the game that we watched this past weekend between the Vikings and the Jaguars, 12-7. 12-7. 4 field goals for the Vikings. Somehow they win this game because the Jacksonville Jaguars are that inept. They're that bad of a team. No one wanted to watch that game. Hell, I was watching the Dallas Cowboys, and whenever the Philadelphia Eagles were scoring, I was like, hey, at least we're seeing some touchdowns. At least we're seeing something. Because we can't bet on the Dallas Cowboys to get any of that action. USA. I need to calm down about thinking about the Dallas Cowboys. I told myself yesterday was a very Dallas Cowboys heavy day. It's not going to be that way today. It's on Wednesday. Tomorrow, on Thursday, we're going to be talking about Thursday Night Football, looking to the action coming up with that. Monday Night Football, I don't know how this game hasn't been flexed yet. I don't know how the game hasn't been flexed yet. It's the Dallas Cowboys, and people will hate watch the Dallas Cowboys. Even their fans, for whatever reason, they're always going to draw. That right there is why they are America's team. Plain and simple. You don't like it? Don't watch them. But you know what you're going to be doing? Watching them. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Thursday Night Football. We're going to be breaking down some of the action that's going to be going on in the world of sports on Thursday night as well. Right now, though, we're going to take a quick break. Whenever we come back, we are going to talk about the college football rankings. The rankings just came out. We're going to be talking about that coming up in a little bit as we continue on the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton.
everybody. Bernie Olivas, Executive Director of the Sun Bowl Association, giving a little update for the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, which will be played on December 31st at noon at the Sun Bowl Stadium. Still too early to find out who's coming to the game, but I'll give you a little update. I get a lot of questions as to what's going to happen with the Pac-12 now that they're dissolved. Well, for the next 2 years, the Sun Bowl Association will have a pick of all the Pac-12 schools that left. So we still have access. We're going to still have access to UCLA and USC and Washington and Oregon and Cal and Arizona State and Utah. But on the other side, it's still going to be the ACC. So a lot of people have been asking the questions about now that there's only 2 Pac-12 teams, where you're going to go. Well, now you know, again, December 31st, 12 noon, Sun Bowl Stadium. Tickets are going pretty well. So don't be left out. Come by the office or go to Ticketmaster and get your tickets. We'll be waiting for you.
Get ready, Sun Bowl fans. The 2024 Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl is back, and it's bigger and better than ever. Mark your calendars. Tickets are now on sale. Whether you're a longtime fan or new to the action, don't miss out on the best seats in the house. Secure your tickets before Thanksgiving and be a part of the tradition. Last year's game was a sellout. Don't wait until it's too late. Join us on December 31st for a day of unforgettable football, family fun, and festive cheer. Visit sunbowl.org to grab your tickets. The clock is ticking. Be there when history is made.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton right here on Roku via the National Streaming Sports app. And, of course, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter. We are all over the place. I'm debating on whether or not I should go live on Instagram coming up in the future. Sorry about that. If you follow me on Instagram, you will see, I don't know how it's happened, but I have become public enemy number one. Make fun of a kicker one time, and then now all of a sudden you are a beta male that has 0 testosterone. Don't know how it happened, but that is now me. That is the life that I lead. I have to accept my lot in life. If you want to follow me on social media, you can at Mr. Tipton 33 on all social media platforms. I believe it's even on YouTube as well. I have owned the market on all of the Mr. Tipton 33s. Didn't realize it was that rare of a name, but there we are. I own all of it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being a part of today's show. I wanted to talk a little bit about what was going on in the world of college football, just because we already are kind of close to playoff time, right? And yesterday, the College Football Playoff Committee came out with their rankings. And the way that it is right now is you got Oregon at number 1, Texas at number 2, BYU at number 3, and then Miami at number 4. That to me would have been a pretty damn good college football playoff before we expanded out now to the 12 teams. So now all 4 of those teams have a bye week. If everything were to hold up this way, we know it's not going to happen that way, but if everything were to hold up this way, those 4 teams would have a bye week. Then you have, rounding out the top 10 here, would be number 5 Penn State, or number 5 Ohio State, number 6 Penn State, number 7 Indiana, and then number 8 Tennessee, number 9 Notre Dame, and then number 10 Alabama. There's a part of that I think is kind of fun. I think that'll be a game that most people are, or those will be games that most people are interested in. And then you have 11 Ole Miss and then 12 Boise State. Conspicuous by the loss that just happened this weekend is you don't have Georgia anymore. And once you don't have Georgia, I think it opens up a lot of possibilities, right? But you'll see that is super, super SEC and Big Ten heavy. You have Texas from the SEC, Alabama from the SEC, Ole Miss from the SEC, Tennessee from the SEC. Then you have in the Big Ten, Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, and Oregon, and that's just going to be weird for me to try to get used to, because Oregon does not come at me as a Big Ten type of team, because it's Oregon. It's the Oregon Ducks. They've been a Pac-12 champion multiple times. It's still just weird to me to be like, oh yeah, Oregon, the best team in the Big Ten. And then, of course, you've got Notre Dame, who is ACC adjacent, Miami, who is the ACC, and then BYU, who I want to say is Mountain West or Pac-12. I'm not 100% sure anymore. I got to do more digging on where these teams are. And then Boise State, who's also in the Big 12 right now as well. Now, I look at these teams, and I sit back and I think to myself, they finally are giving teams a chance? ? Does anyone legitimately think that if the matchup right now, the first round matchup that would happen right now, the 5 versus the 12, which we know in college basketball is upset city, the 5 versus the 12 would be Ohio State versus Boise State. I love Boise State. Tommy Conso was telling me the other day that the Dallas Cowboys need to tank to get Genty off of Boise State. And to me, it's like, okay, yeah, let's get him. He's a good running back. But the fact of the matter is Adrian Zamudio tunes in. He says, hey, what's up? What's up, Adrian? How you doing, buddy? Boise State would not make this a fun game. I don't think Boise State would even be able to be competitive in a game against Ohio State. And then you got BYU at number 3. And BYU, to me, is kind of an interesting team to watch right here. And if everything holds up, right, BYU would wind up playing the winner of Penn State and Ole Miss, a Big Ten team and a SEC team. And Ole Miss, to me, like maybe they just got in. I don't know how great they really are. I still have a hard time buying in on any of these teams that are not named Alabama that aren't in the top 4 just because Alabama has beaten it into me, right? But if I'm looking back and I watch BYU, do I think BYU has a legitimate shot of beating Penn State or even Ole Miss? And the answer to that is simply no. I can't find a way of thinking that there's any possibility out there that BYU can pull out a win against those teams. And I get it. Everyone's going to say, oh, well, it gives teams more chances to win. You got more teams in here. It helps create more parity and blah, blah, blah. And the whole world is beautiful and all these other things that people want to say that they think that the world is going to be. It doesn't work that way. This is a blatant money grab. The entirety of the college football playoff expanding to 12 teams is a absolute blatant money grab. That's all it is. You're going to be tuning in. They get more viewers. That's what matters, right? Now these games actually have some sort of competitive advantage to them, and we're not going to see as many people not playing, getting ready for the NFL draft or whatever it is, trying to make sure the draft stock stays up. But I will say it does create some intriguing matchups, right? I know people love whenever you get the Cinderella story in college basketball. But the reason why we love that Cinderella story in college basketball is because Cinderella normally doesn't make it all the way to the end of the dance. Midnight comes, Cinderella's got to go home. She's turning into a pumpkin, right? The party still lasts till 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock if you're your boy, but the party still lasts a lot longer than midnight. But Cinderella's got to be gone, or else we don't care anymore. We don't want to watch, and it's just like going back to the topic of earlier where we don't want to watch defensive games. We don't want to watch some mid-major that nobody cares about in the national championship game. Yes, I get it. Everybody loves rooting for an underdog. Everyone thinks the underdog story is so great and so much fun, and it's one of those things that people, hitch their wagon to, and they feel like, oh my God, there's some awesome stuff going on here. Maybe the underdogs have a chance. Nobody really cares about things that way. Not whenever it comes to sports, at least not at the highest level, at least not at the most competitive level. I don't want to see Boise State versus Texas in a national championship game because Boise State's going to get their ass kicked. It would not be fun to watch. It would be a lopsided national championship game, much like watching any Dallas Cowboys game against a team that can run the damn football. If this were to happen, if you were to get a Boise State versus even Oregon is going to, pardon the pun because they're the Ducks, fly right on by them. It's not going to be a fun game. It's not going to be a fun national championship. And then us as fans are going to be like, I can't believe we watched that game. Of course we watched that game because we're fans and we're gluttons for pain, right? Nobody wants to watch Boise State. And then I'll tell you this. Worst case scenario for the NCAA. It's one of those things that almost happens every year whenever you have these tournament-style playoffs, right? Hell, 2 years ago. I'll have to look up what the teams were. I'll get that information after the break. But 2 years ago, the NCAA tournament was nothing but a bunch of mid-majors, and nobody watched. It was like FIU. I want to say the University of Miami was in there. You know, basketball powerhouse Miami was in there. Texas Tech. I love Texas Tech, right? But no one wants to see that. I believe it was a year that Baylor won as well. So to me, it's just one of those things of like, no one wants to watch those underdog matchups. Worst case scenario for Major League Baseball this year was if you had the San Diego Padres taking on either the Detroit Tigers or the Cleveland Guardians. The Cleveland Guardians. I didn't get the whole word out. The Cleveland Guardians. That would have been a worst case scenario for Major League Baseball this year in the World Series. There is a possibility of us as fans getting a BYU versus Boise State national championship game. Slim as it may be, there is the possibility of us getting that type of matchup, Boise State versus BYU. And I ask you, as fans of college football, as fans of football in general, are you watching that game? Do you care about that game now? Is that game something that's important to you? Are you going to sit back and be like, oh, yeah, no, that's the national champion we deserve? No, of course not, because we're sports fans and we're jerks. It's that simple. The reason why no one wants to watch that game is because neither one of those teams have real brand recognition. Maybe BYU from the 70s and the 80s, but that's like saying Notre Dame's great. And if you listen to anything I've done before in the past, Notre Dame, to me, the most overrated school of all time. All right. I'm sorry. Wusa. Got to calm down once again. Okay. So now we have some of the rankings. And that's the thing. Tommy Kanata saying absolutely not. Nobody wants to watch that type of national championship game. BYU and Boise State. Again, I'll watch it because I have to. But I will be hate watching every moment of that game thinking to myself, this is a complete waste of time. I love the fact that people want to have parity in sports. I really do. I think it's a novel concept for people to think that, oh, this is a real legitimate possibility of maybe teams will have a fighting chance. Maybe this can happen. In college football, especially, the college football playoff expanding the way that it has is going to show everybody the difference between teams that have a bunch of money that they can spend in NIL versus the teams that have a little bit of money, just a tiny little bit compared to what Miami's able to pay, compared to what the University of Texas is able to play or pay rather. To me, I just cannot for the life of me sit here and think that there's a real legitimate shot of these teams that no one cares about actually being in the college football playoff. And it leads me to this topic that I've kind of been hearkening on for the last couple of years. If you paid attention to any of the stuff that I've done in the past, I know for the Roku audience, for the people on National Streaming Sports, this is going to be new. But for those that have been longtime listeners or those that have listened for a while, you will get to see it like this. I want the SEC, the Big 12, the ACC, and now the Big 10 to just create their own conference, to just create their own championship. That's really the teams that all of us want to watch because we expect greatness from those conferences. We expect those conferences to be amazing. And then you have your group of 5 conferences, your Mountain West, your Conference USA, which is going to be gone in a couple of years, your Pac-12, your MAC, your other conferences that are out there. Once you do that, once you have that separation, you have your champion of the group of 5, and then you got your champion of the group of the power conferences. Introduce what we get in soccer in Europe and have relegation. Fans are going to go to these games no matter what. These players are not getting paid, so you don't have to worry about the cost of a professional franchise or the cost of a professional contract for these players. You have actual relegation ability in here. So why not say, okay, you, the best team of the group of 5, let's say that it is Boise State, who's in the Mountain West. Let's move you into, we'll call it the Big 12. And then we'll take out whatever the worst team was in the Big 12 or whatever the worst team was in the SEC or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and just have relegation style that we have in European football. It's a real possibility, not like what we have in the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball here in the United States, where you can actually have relegation now in college sports because you don't have to worry about the size of contracts. There are no contracts in college football. So why not introduce that? Now you're giving the mid-majors something to really fight for. Maybe you get a possibility, and then instead of it just being, okay, well, if you're there for a year and you suck, we kick you out. No, you're in the conference for 5 years. There's your buffer. Now you're playing for something. Now you've got some actual juice that you can fight with. I apologize, y'all. I'm dealing with some congestion today. But now you have some juice you can fight with if you're these mid-majors are saying, look, I really want to try to make something like this happen. I want a legitimate shot of being in the Big 12 or the SEC or any of these other things, because that's where the money is. You cannot get to that level without having a history of winning. Look how long it's taken for us to put some respect on Boise State. Boise State in 2001 beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. And it took us this long to be like, oh, wow, they're actually a legitimate shot, huh? You know why it took that long? Because they're not a legitimate contender every year. At least with relegation, you're making the bottom teams have something to play for. You're making the teams that everyone thinks suck have something to play for because you don't want to finish dead last. And hell, even if you want to do it that way, let's make the Mountain West and Conference USA and the MAC and all those other auxiliary leagues or conferences, make them basically a stepping stone up for each one of the conferences, right? The Mountain West, you just go ahead and give that winner over to the Big 12. The MAC, you give that winner over to the Big 10, and so on and so on. That to me would be much more fun than what we're getting with this crappy college football playoff of 12 teams. Oh my goodness, all 12 teams have a chance to win. No, they don't. Flatly, they don't. Boise State is going to get rocked by Ohio State if it holds up this way. I will say it right now. Any team that is not in those Power 4 conferences, which is the Big 12, the SEC, the Big 10, and the ACC, any team that is not in those conferences that makes it to the college football playoff is going to get their ass kicked. Flatly. Endo discussion. We don't even need to watch it anymore. Also take that with a grain of salt because I'm the guy a few years ago that said that there will never be a 16 seed that beats a 1 seed. And that exact same year, the University of Baltimore, Maryland, I think is what it was, UMBC, they beat, I want to say Villanova, which was the number 1 seed, so 16 beat a 1. So there's a possibility here. I'll say it like this. One of my favorite movies is White Man Can't Jump. The sun shines on a dog's ass every now and then. That dog's ass would wind up being BYU or Boise State if everything were to hold up right now. Woo, got a little worked up there, y'all. I apologize. My fire is getting built up right here. I've been getting text messages and phone calls during this entire time. And whenever that happens, I tend to get mad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to address those text messages and phone calls. We shall see what they are about. Maybe your boy's in trouble. Maybe National Streaming Sports is like, hey, guy, don't talk like that about the college football playoff. We're really big fans. I guarantee it's not them. I promise you that it's not them. Mac and Linda, you guys are great. I appreciate the opportunity. Remember, we are now live every Monday through Thursday on the Roku channel via National Streaming Sports. And, of course, we are going to be live on YouTube, X, and Facebook as well. Whenever we come back here on the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, we are going to talk a little bit about the NBA continuing on. Sorry, Tommy. I know you hate my NBA stuff, but that's what it is. Also, actually, before we get to the break, let me read these comments over here. Tommy Cananza saying, I don't want to go back to the 90s before free agent, or I don't. I want to go back to the 90s before free agency and watch my boys win it all every year. I wish that dog lived in Dallas. I wish so too. I wish the sun shined on that dog's ass all the time in Dallas. But instead, we've just gotten the Dallas Cowboys our dog ass. That's as nice as I can say it. We'll be back in a minute. What's up, everybody? Mike Tipton here on a Sunday afternoon, about to enjoy the Dallas Cowboys taking on the San Francisco 49ers. And I want to let you know about my friends over at Beer Box. Beerbox.com is a place that I went to get my craft beer delivered at home. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it. The first beer we're going to be trying is from Fat Orange Cat Brewing Company in North Haven, Connecticut. I am so mad at myself because I was just there a couple of weeks ago, and I should have stopped by the brewery and tried some of their beers, but I got it delivered by my friends over at Beer Box, so let's go ahead and give it a try. A little ASMR for the ASMR audience here. The Baby Kittens from Fat Orange Cat Brew Company in North Haven, Connecticut is a hazy IPA. And you can see right there how beautiful it is, how hazy that looks. It's got a 6.5% ABV, so you know it's going to pack a little bit of a punch. I'm not a big IPA guy, but I can't wait to try this one. I can already smell that it's going to be super fresh. So here we go. Cheers. That is very interesting. It's not super impactful like what you normally get with a lot of IPAs. I think I might be a fan. I think a hazy IPA might be the way that I'm going to start going in the future. There you have it. The Baby Kittens from Fat Orange Cat Brewing Company in North Haven, Connecticut. I'm giving that one an 8 out of 10. That is a great overall beer. So the next beer we have is going to be the Greenhouse Pilsner from Evil Twin Brewing Company in Ridgewood, New York. This is a Pilsner. It's got a 5% alcohol ABV on it, but you can see here an absolutely beautiful can. I love the artwork on that. That thing is absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to try this one. Here we go again for the ASMR audience. Oh, that was good. Look at that thing of beauty right there from the Evil Twin Brewing Company in Ridgewood, New York. This Greenhouse Pilsner, look how beautiful that beer is right there. There we go. Bottoms up. Cheers, everybody. Man, that's good. That is phenomenal. I'm giving that one a 9 out of 10. That beer is absolutely flavorful. What you need to do to try different beers like this from different areas, you don't have to travel out of town anymore and try to find them out. All you have to do is go over to beerbox.com. It's super simple the way that it works. So here's what you got to do. Just simply subscribe. That's simple. Can't be any easier than that. It's month to month, and you can cancel any time. Obviously, you must be 21 to enjoy. Then all you got to do is get ready. The experts at Beer Box select a top-notch variety of craft beer packed, shipped directly to your front door. Then just sit back and enjoy a monthly surprise of quality craft beer from the best breweries across America. Once again, beerbox.com, that's the place that you go to order all the best craft beer throughout the United States. Get your subscription today. Must be 21 or over to enjoy. Welcome back to the Tipping Point with my Tipton. Everybody had to take a little extra break there trying to get rid of all this congestion because I can hear it. And those of you that know me know, like, I have one redeeming quality, and that's the fact that I have a halfway decent voice, maybe. And whenever it doesn't sound like it's at its best, I get real self-conscious about that. Don't care about my looks, don't care about anything else, but the voice as I'm doing this show, it better be as good as it possibly can be. And maybe, the little bit of the rasp that's going on with my voice right now, maybe that's super sexy out there. Tommy, tell me what you think. All right, but I know I had mentioned that I want to talk a little bit about the NFL or about basketball, but I really wanted to hit on this topic before I got over to basketball. And I was listening to ESPN yesterday, and as you know, on every Tuesday on ESPN, Aaron Rodgers joins Pat McAfee and will kind of just talk, right? And I love that Aaron Rodgers is comfortable enough with Pat McAfee to just say whatever it is that he wants to say. And that's his right. He's able to do that. He should be comfortable enough to do that. But then he goes out yesterday and does his typical Aaron Rodgers thing, which is just the whole, we played hard. If the ball bounces here or there, we're able to get a win, blah, 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 blah. My guy, you lost by 30, right? Like I know you can say that it's not a point in the season to be placing blame on people because you're the guy to blame in that aspect of things. But the fact of the matter is, they're just whenever it comes to Aaron Rodgers, people know this. Like I'm not a huge Aaron Rodgers fan. I don't see what a lot of people out there see, which is the whole that he's the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't see it. And I've said it a million times that during his career, there are a lot of quarterbacks that you would take above Aaron Rodgers before you got to Aaron Rodgers and say, oh, yeah, no, I'll take him. And just to name a few, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, I'd take Patrick Mahomes, right? And it's not his fault. Like, he is a very talented quarterback. He is a great quarterback at that. But the fact of the matter is that Aaron Rodgers' biggest downfall is Aaron Rodgers himself. Always sounding sexy no matter what. That's what it is. And my guy, Tommy Canazzo, saying you're sexy, bro. No Diddy. Hey, as long as there's no Diddy with it, we're happy. We're good. Keep the baby oil to yourself, my guy. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. A couple of drinks. We'll see how it goes. But with Aaron Rodgers, you have an NFL player who is a first ballot Hall of Famer. But he's also the first player on the team to take zero accountability. Oh no, I had no idea that the Jets were going to fire our head coach. It just happened, and I was like, oh no, you guys hired my friend. He's going to be the new offensive coordinator. Oh wow, I had no clue. You guys are just paying me a ton of money. It's almost like Christmas is happening right here. And then whenever you listen to his excuse machine that he had just churning out the excuses yesterday on Pat McAfee, you wind up hearing him say, if this went this way, the score would have been different. If this goes this way, this would have been different. Blah, 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 right? Like just excuse after excuse after excuse happening here when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. And then he went on to say, there was a strip sack and a fumble, but it was whatever. Not taking the accountability of maybe I shouldn't have fumbled that ball. Like, yeah, I got hit. It was a strip sack, whatever. I got to try to hold on to it better. The offense starts with me as a quarterback. Maybe that's where the excuse machine should start. But it just seems like Aaron Rodgers this whole time over the last few years has taken zero accountability for any of the losses that his team has had, right? I'm Aaron Rodgers. I'm great. I've got a phenomenal skill set that most quarterbacks wish they had. And I will agree. I think he's a great quarterback. He's not the greatest of all time, but I think he's a great quarterback. And whenever I look and see all the stuff that Aaron Rodgers does, it just leaves me so frustrated because he blew up the Green Bay Packers, a team that we saw last year this close to making it to the NFC Championship game again with Jordan Love as their quarterback. Aaron Rodgers blows up the Green Bay Packers because he says that they don't have enough talent on that team to win him a Super Bowl, to win another Super Bowl with him. They made it to back-to-back NFC Championship games. I don't think it's a lack of talent. I think it's a lack of the quarterback making the right plays. We saw one of those NFC Championship games where he was in Green Bay. Instead of throwing a ball to a wide open receiver 6 yards out of the end zone, he slides at the 3-yard line, and that's the end of the game. That's not on anybody else but him. And yet he still has the mindset to go around saying, "Oh, no. It's the team. The team around me, the Packers haven't done enough. The Packers haven't done enough to get me a championship level team, despite the fact that we've made 2 NFC championships in a row. The Packers, they should have drafted a wide receiver. I would have been happy if they had done that. You got some pretty damn good talent in New York right now, and you're doing absolutely nothing with them. Absolutely nothing with them. And instead of saying, yeah, I need to be better. Yeah, I need to do this. It's, again, just all the BS that he can possibly say to try to get him feeling like he's the man. And he's just not. Chris Babcock saying Aaron Rodgers is so 2010. I agree. And I think that was honestly the last time he was really great, right? And again, like I said, when you look at his career, and it's not his fault that he was born when he was born, right? But when you look at his career, you can name off a group of quarterbacks that you would probably take over Aaron Rodgers. And it's not a slight on Aaron Rodgers. It's just a part about the fact that he is not the player that he thinks he is. You know what I mean? Like, he's not the player that a lot of the media out there is hyping him up to be. He's just not that guy. And all I would like to see out of Aaron Rodgers, and we're not going to get it because he's an old, stubborn dude, and me as an old, stubborn dude, I know how I am. Chris Babcock, you're old and stubborn too. You know how it goes. We're not going to take accountability on things, but Aaron Rodgers to sit here and just constantly throw his team under the bus. You know the reason why the Jets aren't winning? Because you're an ass. It's that simple. Endo discussion. You want the Jets to be better? How about you treat your teammates a little bit better? Everyone was jumping down Micah Parsons' throat the other day because he says, coach, if he gets let go, he's going to have a whole other career. I wanted to try to win a game and a Super Bowl for Zach Martin and the old heads on this team. And then all of the pundits out there like, oh, my God, how dare you say such a thing? I have to clutch my pearls and be like, oh, Lord, how could Micah Parsons have an opinion about how he wants to win games for his teammates? Oh, no. Then Aaron Rodgers comes out here and is like, yeah, my teammates are the reason why we lost. And no one says a damn thing about it. I am tired of Aaron Rodgers. I cannot wait for the day that Aaron Rodgers retires so that I don't have to talk about him, his stupid beard, and his stupid soccer mom haircut anymore. I went full Chris Jericho right there. Chris Babcock saying, yells at Cloud and the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, it kind of feels that way. USA, whatever it is, I'm gonna calm down. I'll be all right. We'll be good. Remember, everybody, on tomorrow's show, I'm thinking about putting the link out there and having y'all join in on the show if you want to be a part of it, so that way we can get some kind of like callers on a radio station, but not as old school, because I'm not going to give you guys my phone number. Well, unless it's Tommy, in which case, maybe, right? Okay, so what I wanted to do right now is just go over some of the stuff that's going on in the world of professional basketball right now. Looking at some of the final scores, the Boston Celtics lose to the Atlanta Hawks, 117-116. Detroit, we spoke about that game yesterday or earlier today. A ill-fated timeout request made by Eric Spoelstra, who has to learn when to use timeouts. It was flashback over to Chris Webber calling a timeout for Michigan that Michigan just didn't have. Luckily for Eric Spoelstra, it wasn't in a championship game, but it was in the Emirates in-season tournament. So it might come back to bite them in not winning the Emirates Cup in-season tournament. Whoa, tons of fun. I do love the Emirates Cup in-season tournament. I don't know why I'm being so sarcastic with it right now. Orlando, a 114-89 win over Charlotte. The Knicks with a 111-99 win over Joel Embiid, who returned, and the Philadelphia 76ers. Philadelphia now 2-8 on the season. Joel Embiid to me is like Aaron. He's the NBA's Aaron Rodgers. Ton of talent, but he's just not the guy. He's not ever going to be the guy. And if you're trying to build around Joel Embiid as your main player, good luck to you. Good luck, Philadelphia. It's going to be a long, long year. Chris Babcock saying sloppy from the Celtics, but still on the Jason Tatum Olympic revenge tour. I'm all about it. I think whenever you compare all the teams that are out there in the NBA, the Celtics to me are head and shoulders above everyone else. It's their season to win or lose, and it's going to be on them and their mindset. Like, will they be able to keep up this same momentum, the same level of dedication? And to me, it's going to be real difficult to see what they're able to do. The Milwaukee Bucks with a 99-85 win over Toronto. Phoenix 120-112 over the Utah Jazz. Golden State and Klay Thompson's return. And if you haven't seen the video of all of the staffers with the Golden State Warriors wearing the captain's hats as a salute to Klay Thompson, then you got to check that video out. Klay Thompson's a stand-up dude. Sorry, y'all. Still dealing with the congestion, the post-nasal drip, and all that stuff. Klay Thompson, a stand-up dude. To me, should have retired in Golden State. I feel like he might do one of those one-day contract things and retire in Golden State. But if you didn't get to see the video of the Golden State Warriors just giving him a little bit of love, that was awesome to see. The entire staff of the Golden State Warriors out there just welcoming him back home the first time that he plays against the Golden State Warriors as an opposing player. And that's got to be one of those mental things that just kind of messes with you. The Portland Trail Blazers with a 122-108 win over Anthony Edwards and them boys with the Minnesota Timberwolves. The NBA to me, I mentioned at the beginning of the show today that the NBA has a little bit of a problem. And the problem is that no one really knows what to expect out of the NBA now because of what we're getting with the load management and player rest and player empowerment. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing, player empowerment. I think it's a wonderful thing. I just think that it's been misused and misrepresented. The NBA's problem is they don't have an identity right now. What is the NBA's identity? No one in the world is getting behind Nikola Jokic because we all get tired of Nikola Jokic. No one wants to get behind LeBron James because it feels like it's been his league for the last 20 years, and it really has been. What is going to be the player that gets the NBA to say, hey, this is, or fans to say, hey, this is the guy that we want to rally behind? We don't have a Jordan anymore. We don't have a Kobe anymore. We don't have a Magic or a Bird. And I use those as examples because it was their league for a small period of time, right? Jordan had the league throughout the 90s. Larry and Magic had the league throughout the 80s. Kobe had the league in the early 2000s. LeBron took the lead midway through the 2000s and has had it ever since. Who's going to be the player that takes over for the NBA after LeBron James? Is it going to be a Wembanyama? I can already see people getting upset over the way that Wembanyama plays. How dare he shoot 30% from the three-point line? He's 7'5". 30% from the three-point line is pretty damn good. He's also a freak athlete. But no one wants to get behind a Wembanyama right now. No one's behind Nikola Jokic, who could be the best player in the NBA by far. And then no one's getting behind Giannis Antetokounmpo just because Antetokounmpo has zero personality. So the NBA right now has themselves an image problem. Who's going to be the player that steps up and takes the league as this is going to be the guy? This is a guy that we're going to know on a first-name basis. We had Larry, we had Magic, we had Michael, we had Kobe, we had LeBron. Who's going to be that next guy? And I think until the NBA figures that out, they're going to continue to have this identity crisis of what's going to be next. We know one thing for sure, though. It ain't going to be Bronny. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.